Hey there, it's Shauna. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for January 15th. So this week I've titled Finding Inner Strength because it's a great week for that. It's also a great week to connect with this sense of inner authority as well. So I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So let's get started. First thing that's happening this week is we have a new moon in the sign of Capricorn. And so a new moon is the beginning of a new lunar cycle. It's the beginning of essentially a new emotional cycle. The moon is related to our emotions and how it is that we process things throughout the month. It's also related to our ability to create, to take what it is that is important to us and then to move out into the world with it. So we're starting a new cycle this week. This particular new moon, again, it's in the sign of Capricorn, and it's exact on Tuesday, January 16th at 6:17 p.m. Pacific time, which is Wednesday the 17th at 2:17 a.m. Universal time, and Wednesday the 17th, 12:17 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. And it's at 26 degrees of Capricorn. So a few different things that are really interesting with this new moon that make it extra special. So first, it's in the sign of Capricorn, which is about structure and responsibility, devotion. Capricorn really wants to accomplish. And so you may be feeling that around this new moon. You may be thinking what it is that you want to put your effort towards. What do you want to apply yourself toward this next month, and then even just this whole coming year as well, since we're at the beginning of the year. And Capricorn energy can have a more somber tone to it. It is a more serious tone, but that's because Capricorn values commitment. And commitment to something that is very important and that has long-term goals, long-term gains. It's typically not like a get rich quick scheme kind of energy. It's like, okay, what is it that we're devoted to? And so an added layer of this is that this new moon is very close to the planet Venus in Capricorn. And so Venus is our ability to attract. It's also what it is that we're attracted to, but it really speaks to like how it is that we attract and magnetize and resonate with the things that are around us that align with our values. And so it's basically like, okay, what is it that you're working on? What is it that is important to you long term? And how are you surrounding yourself with people, places, and situations that align with that? Situations that are in alignment with your value system. And the other part of this is that we have Jupiter and Pluto making a sextile around the same time. And so this just brings, Jupiter is a sense of openness and expansion, and Pluto is about intensity and going after something that feels very important and very meaningful. And this combination, there's kind of like a hunger, like this desire for something that's very important. So you may know what that means for you as I'm talking about this, or it may become more clear over the coming month. But this new moon is definitely a good time to focus on what it is that you want to grow in your life, what it is that you want to commit to, and where to draw boundaries as well on something that, like situations that are not in alignment with your value system. The other thing that's happening this week is very shortly after the new moon, we have the sun moving into the sign of Aquarius. And so this is happening Friday, Saturday, so towards the end of the week. And so it's kind of cool. We have the new moon, this fresh start, this new like initiation into what it is that we want to create. And then the sun moving into Aquarius is really marking the beginning of the eclipse season that we'll have over the next month as well. Aquarius is about changing the system and doing things differently. And both Aquarius and Capricorn have this sense of doing things doing things that's not just for yourself. It's doing something that can benefit others as well. So that may be in the mix of what it is that you're working on. And then lastly, later in the week, we have Mercury sextile Neptune. And so this is really interesting. This happens over the weekend as well. Mercury is our ability to think about things. It's our ability to communicate messages. Like I'm communicating a message to you right now. That's very mercurial. And then Neptune is our ability to connect with our intuitive senses. And so there's something this weekend where we may be like picking up something that is like we're blending our intuitive faculties and then our intellectual faculties, and those two can come together. And maybe there's some new information that comes to you. Maybe you just think about doing things in a way that feels more graceful, where it feels like there's more flow. So I would really pay attention, especially because we're in the cycle of the moon waxing and growing, and it's a time of starting to take steps forward towards things. Notice where there's a sense of flow and where things feel like maybe like there's not necessarily like because we do need to put effort towards things this week, so it's not like everything is going to be easy, and if it's not easy, don't do it. It's more like where are things working out when you do apply effort, when you do take the actions towards what it is that you want, what opens up for you, and what kind of opportunities come in, how does it feel, all of those good things. So that being said, I have 3 tips for you to really use this energy. Tip number 1 is to set boundaries wisely. And this is important because we're at the very tail end of Capricorn season. We kind of have like this pileup of planets in Capricorn. We have the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Pluto, and Saturn. Oh my gosh, so much Capricorn, right? And so Capricorn is about limitation, and that can be in a way that is positive and healthy and beneficial, or it can feel constraining as well. So I want you to look at how it is that you set boundaries with yourself, with other people, with your time, all of these things, and to do that wisely. And I think because we're towards the end of Capricorn season, we have this new moon in the sign of Capricorn, that we can do that. So I would notice, where it is that you set a boundary. Where do you say no when you need to say no? Do you say yes when you need to say yes, etc.? So that's tip number 1, to set boundaries wisely. Tip number 2 is to innovate where needed. And so this is because we have kind of like a switch happening here. We're starting out with the Capricorn energy, and then we're moving to Aquarius with the sun moving into the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is about innovation, and it's not about innovation just for the sake of doing something different. I mean, you may want to do that, I don't know, but I feel like this is a good time to be very strategic with where it is that we draw boundaries, but then also where it is that we innovate and where it is that we do things differently. So I would really think about that, like where in your life do you need to innovate something? Where is there some fresh energy that needs to come in? And with this being the beginning of eclipse season also, it is a time of change, and it is a time of reinvention. So it's a good vibe for that this week. So that's tip number 2, to innovate where needed. And then before I give you tip number 3, I have a quote that I want to share with you. So this is by the writer Virginia Woolf, and she is the person that we're featuring on this week's episode of the Feminine Principle podcast, because she has like this really beautiful, she had this really beautiful devotion to her writing and to her internal process. And her work was very beautiful and very deep and rich. And so I think it really embodies the energy of this week. So she says, I can only note that the past is beautiful because one never realizes an emotion at the time. It expands later, and thus we don't have complete emotions about the present, only about the past. And so I like this a lot because we may be kind of feeling this, like the time of the new moon is when you feel something, but it feels kind of intangible. The new moon is a time of inwardness and really reflecting on your inner experience. And sometimes we don't really know what the inner experience is until we've had time to actually feel it in real time and then reflect on it in the past. And so so I would encourage you to to feel what it is that's coming up, and know that whatever it is that you're feeling, especially because we're moving into eclipse season, whatever it is that you're feeling now, that will become more clear in the coming month, in the coming weeks, and in the coming months. And to notice what feels important to you, because it probably is. So that's your, oh my gosh, I almost forgot to give you tip number 3. I always do that. Okay, so tip number 3 is along these same lines, to trust yourself. So I say this because it is the time of the new moon, we're kind of like feeling into things, and things are a bit more intangible. So trust what it is that feels important to you, and trust what it is that you're getting, like little subtle signs or things that come to you in dreams, or just a feeling of what it is that is beneficial for you to move towards or for you to do. Really trust yourself, because you're the only one that can be the judge of that for you, what's right for you. No one else can tell you that. So that is your weekly horoscope, your weekly forecast. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend, because I like to get these messages out to as many people as possible. And if you want to go deeper into this astrology, much more than I can do on this video, you can listen to the Feminine Principle podcast, Astrology for Authentic Living. So I co-host that with my friend Mel of Energetic Principles, and it's super fun. We talk about all of these aspects in much more detail, and Mel pulls some tarot cards, and I have more quotes and all of that good stuff. So I'll have a link down below. You can listen to that on iTunes, Podbean, or even YouTube. And then, of course, if you want to really get in touch with the lunar cycles for this new moon and then all year long, you can order my 2018 moon journal. That is, it's only in PDF version now, because I sold out of the spiral bound copies. So you get an electric copy, and it's super amazing. It has descriptions for all of the lunar cycles, and then reflection questions, and an action item for every single new moon and every single full moon, and then room for you to journal in there as well. So yeah, that's all for this week. I'm wishing you an amazing week and sending lots of love. I will talk to you soon. Namaste.